A Murder of Ghosts. Written by Evie is Evil. Chapter 3. Trigger warnings for this chapter include graphic depictions of injury, panic attacks, and mentions of character death. Jason was jostled out of sleep by a wet sensation on his face. Why was that familiar? He was too out of it to react, his hazy thoughts moving sluggishly. He tried to blink his eyes open, but quickly shut them. He had a killer headache forming. The world around him was too much on his senses, making him feel nauseous. He squished his eyes closed more and curled up tighter. Through his muddled mind, thoughts floated to the forefront. Where am I? This isn't the cave. And why does everything hurt? And everything did hurt. His skin felt too hot and too cold at the same time. Aches were radiating from every inch of his body, and he wanted to pass out from the pain. Suddenly, something grabbed his wrist, pulling it from the ball he had curled up in. He whined in protest and tried to pull it back. The something just dug two of its fingers in harder, pressing on sensitive bruises. Jason panicked. He did not like feeling confined. He wouldn't be chained up again. He wouldn't tie Jason up again. Tears spilled over his cheeks as he started sucking in choked gasps. This wasn't right. He should be in the cave medbay after getting injured, or in a hospital, or home in his bed. He shouldn't be here, wherever here was. He wanted... What did he want? His head hurt, and his mouth tasted like ash. He was so tired, and he needed something, but he didn't know what. Suddenly, he felt fingers slide gently through his curls, and... oh, that's what he was missing. "Dad!" he wailed. This wasn't his dad. The fingers were too slender and cold to the touch, but he really missed his "Dad!" He continued to wail for his dad, all while greedily accepting the affection because he was scared and confused and nothing made sense. He continued to sob. Wet tears rolled down his cheeks and dripped off his chin. He pulled all his limbs as close to his body as possible, including the previously grabbed wrist, and... oh, when had he been given that limb back? He hadn't noticed its release from its captor. The fingers carting through his hair reminded him of Catherine, soothing him on nights when Willis got too drunk, of Dick fidgeting with his hair on movie nights in the home theater, of his dad comforting him after nightmares. These fingers were none of those, yet they still carried kindness with their rhythmic motions. Despite his better judgment, Jason let the motions lull him back to sleep, ceasing the flow of tears down his cheeks and his incessant calls for his father. Danny peered around the purple door. There was a boy with short black curls and a colorful costume made up of reds, yellows, and greens. He was curled up in a fetal position and was covered in blood. That can't be right. Ghosts don't bleed red. Danny decided to float a little closer, his eyes wide. The boy looked to be maybe a year or two younger than him. Is he a new ghost? Or maybe he got stuck here somehow, and he's human. As Danny approached, he noticed the boy was silently crying. Hello? Are you all right? The boy didn't respond, instead just continued to cry, squeezing up into an even tighter ball. Danny finally took stock of the boy's body, and it was littered with injuries. His legs were bent askew and were covered in gashes. His balled-up fists looked mangled beyond belief. Half his face was severely burnt, and blood trailed down the other half. The red tunic he was wearing was stained darker in patches from blood. his yellow cape dirty and shredded at the ends, and every inch of him had a thin layer of ash. A yellow R embroidered onto the left breast of the shirt stood out to him as something to mark for later. Danny's eyes widened. He had seen a couple ghosts fresh off death before, but none of their forms showed them in this state. Most ghosts quickly changed to a more comfortable skin, so to speak. This was beyond anything he had experienced. Hesitantly, Danny grabbed the boy's wrist, pulling it away from his body. It had a bruised ring around it, which Danny ignored in favor of feeling for a pulse. He had to be sure. The boy did wince at the pressure and whined, trying to pull his wrist back close to his chest. Danny held firm for a couple more seconds to double-check, before eventually releasing the boy's wrist. This seemed to set something off, because suddenly the boy was crying audibly, choking on gasps of air as hot tears cleared paths through the dirt and blood on his cheeks. Danny wasn't sure what to do. This was someone who had probably died a couple of hours ago, and he was a child, no less. Well, Danny was a child when he died, but the point still stands. He would never wish an early death like this on anyone. He racked his brain for comfort measures and stumbled upon memories of how, after waking from nightmares of his death, he would stumble into Jazz's room late at night. He would flop under her covers that she would open an invitation after spotting him hovering by her doorway. She would then smoothly run her fingers through his hair till he was able to succumb to sleep once again. Hesitating a bit, Danny's hand hovered over the boy's head before he went and started stroking through it. Almost instantly, the boy's breath hitched, and he started sobbing harder. "Dad!" the boy wailed. Danny's heart broke. "Dad!" the boy repeated. This was just a boy crying for his father. Someone who wanted nothing more than the comfort of their parent. Someone who probably would never get that comfort again. Danny's eyes watered in sympathy, but he did not stop carting his hands through the boy's hair as he wailed for his father. Danny was lucky enough to still be able to interact with his family. Lucky enough to still have a sister who comforted him when he cried. He began to gently pluck out knots in the boy's hair as he continued to wail. If he could provide even the slightest comforts, he would. Eventually, the boy's wails petered out into sniffles, and his cheeks went from slick to tacky with tears. Danny peered down and noticed the boy's eyes were closed in sleep now. He cried himself to sleep. This was a little too much for Danny to handle on his own. He remembered how the boy flinched at the grip on his wrist. Death injuries don't stay painful. This kid's injuries were clearly hurting him, and that wasn't normal. Mind made up, Danny gently scooped the boy up into his arms, mindful of what injuries he could, and set off in the direction of the far frozen. Frostbite will know how to help. And that is the end of Chapter 3. Thank you for listening.